Right now, in the front of your neck, sits a piece of tissue shaped like a butterfly that weighs less than an ounce. It sets the speed of nearly everything else in you: how fast you burn fuel, how warm you feel in a cool room, how quickly your heart beats, how clearly your mind works in the afternoon. And when it begins to run slow, almost nobody notices the organ. They notice the cold hands, the afternoon that arrives like a wall, the sentence that will not finish itself, and they say the same three words: just getting older. According to the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, nearly 5 out of 100 Americans aged 12 and older have an underactive thyroid, and it is more common after 60. Your thyroid does not slow down because of the calendar. It slows down because nobody ever told you what to feed it. Let me be straight with you about this specific organ, because this is where guessing does the most harm. Fatigue, cold sensitivity, constipation, weight change, and memory trouble are non-specific. They belong to a dozen different conditions, and the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases states plainly that a hypothyroidism diagnosis cannot be based on symptoms alone. So please do not diagnose yourself from a symptom list or from a plate of food. Ask a clinician for thyroid testing. I am not a doctor, and nothing here is medical advice. This channel uses an AI-generated presenter and an AI-generated voice, and everything here is education. Hello, and welcome back to the Vitality Method. Here's the number I would like you to carry with you: 150 micrograms. That is the recommended daily intake of iodine for an adult, according to the Office of Dietary Supplements at the National Institutes of Health. 150 millionths of a gram. Over an entire lifetime, that adds up to somewhere around a teaspoon of the stuff, and without it, the gland in your neck cannot build its hormones at all. That is not my figure. The Office of Dietary Supplements states it directly. Iodine is an essential component of the thyroid hormones thyroxine and triiodothyronine, the two that doctors write as T4 and T3. The chemistry is hiding in those names. Thyroxine carries 4 iodine atoms. Triiodothyronine carries 3. Your body cannot manufacture a single one of them. Every atom of iodine in your bloodstream this morning arrived through your mouth. There is a second mineral in this story, and almost nobody has heard of it. The same office reports that selenium concentration is higher in the thyroid gland than in any other organ in the body. Not the heart, not the brain, that small butterfly in your neck. A gland does not hoard a mineral like that by accident. So, 2 minerals, 1 gland, and the ordinary groceries that carry them. Stay with me through all 6, because the food at number 1 delivers almost an entire day's iodine in a single modest portion, and it is sitting in the freezer case most people now walk straight past. Do me a favor and leave me a comment below. How old are you, and have you already noticed one of those quiet signs? Type your age and the sign cold hands when nobody else is cold, thinning eyebrows, an afternoon that keeps flattening you, and in just a moment, a code will appear on your screen. Scan it with your phone camera, and it will download a free copy of the book, The 90-Year Blueprint. It is completely free, it is my gift to you, and it walks through the daily habits of the longest-lived people on Earth, how they eat, how they move, how they sleep, and how they stay independent decades longer than the rest of us. There is nothing to buy and nothing to sign up for. So scan it now, download your free book, and then come right back, because number 6 is waiting. One more thing before we count down, and I want to say it out loud rather than bury it in the fine print, because the AI disclosure on this channel is part of the script. The presenter you are watching and the voice you are hearing are both AI generated. The host on this channel never claims to be a doctor, a nurse, or any kind of licensed medical professional, and never claims to be any real person. Everything here is educational information drawn from published guidance by named public health institutions: the National Institutes of Health, the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases, and the American Thyroid Association. For every food on this list, I will tell you which institution the number came from. Now, as we go through these 6 foods, listen for 4 mechanisms, because they will keep coming back. 1. Raw material, iodine, the atom the hormone is physically built out of. 2. Conversion, selenium, which the body uses to turn the storage hormone T4 into the active hormone T3. 3. The protein backbone the whole molecule is assembled on. And 4. The mechanism nobody talks about, adequacy rather than excess, because with this particular organ, more is emphatically not better. 4 mechanisms, 6 foods. Every one of them is in an ordinary grocery store. Let's begin the countdown at number 6. Number 6, measured iodized salt. Let's start with the mechanism, because it is the most literal one on this list. Your thyroid is essentially a small factory that takes iodine out of the blood and welds it onto a protein scaffold to build hormone. No iodine arriving means no hormone leaving, and your body has no way to manufacture the raw material. It is not something the liver can improvise. It has to come in from outside every week for your entire life. Here is the practical arithmetic, and every figure comes from the Office of Dietary Supplements at the National Institutes of Health. Iodized salt in the United States contains 45 micrograms of iodine per gram of salt. A quarter of a teaspoon of iodized table salt carries about 78 micrograms. That is already more than half of the 150 microgram daily target, from a quantity you would not even notice on a plate of eggs. Now hear the part that matters more than the number. I am not telling you to eat more salt, not 1 grain more than you already do. What I am telling you is to look at the box you already own and read the label. If it does not say the word iodized, that iodine is not in there. Sea salt, pink salt, flaky finishing salt, most kosher salt, beautiful products, and by default they carry very little iodine. Millions of people quietly swapped their iodized salt for a fancier one over the last 20 years, and never once thought of it as a nutritional decision. Here is how to add this to your plate. Keep your total sodium exactly where your own doctor wants it, and simply make the salt you are already using an iodized one. And do not go the other way either. The same office sets the adult upper limit at 1,100 micrograms of iodine a day. This is the first food on the list, and already we are meeting mechanism number 4. Enough, not more. Number 5, plain yogurt or milk. The mechanism here is delivery. Iodine has to reach you in ordinary food, in an ordinary amount, several times a week, and in the American food supply, dairy is one of the most reliable everyday carriers there is. It is not because cows produce iodine. It arrives from iodine-fortified cattle feed and from the iodine-based sanitizers used in milking, which means the amount genuinely varies from carton to carton and from season to season. I would rather tell you that honestly than pretend it is a precise dose. According to the Office of Dietary Supplements at the National Institutes of Health, 1 cup of non-fat milk supplies about 84 micrograms of iodine, and 3/4 of a cup of plain non-fat Greek yogurt supplies about 87 micrograms. Either one is over half of an adult's daily requirement in a single serving. The same food also brings protein, and protein matters here because mechanism number 3 is the amino acid scaffold your gland welds those iodine atoms onto. Now, the most important sentence in this entire video, and it belongs right here at the first food where timing genuinely matters. If you take levothyroxine, do not change one thing about how you take it because of anything I say. Medline Plus from the National Library of Medicine states that levothyroxine is usually taken once a day on an empty stomach, 30 minutes to 1 hour before breakfast, and that calcium carbonate and iron should be separated from it by at least 4 hours. Soy, walnuts, and dietary fiber are also flagged as worth asking about. A cup of yogurt is calcium. So keep your prescribed routine exactly as it was given to you. Ask your pharmacist where in the day your food belongs, and never stop or change a dose on your own. Here is how to add this to your plate. 1 cup most days, plain rather than the sweetened kind, at a time of day that does not collide with your medication. Number 4, whole eggs. The mechanism at number 4 is that this is the first food on the list doing both jobs at once. Almost every other food is good at one half of the story. The egg quietly handles both, and it does it for pennies. According to the Office of Dietary Supplements at the National Institutes of Health, one large hard-boiled egg supplies about 31 micrograms of iodine. The office's separate selenium fact sheet puts that same egg at about 15 micrograms of selenium, which, against an adult selenium requirement of 55 micrograms a day, is roughly a quarter of the day's need. Raw material and conversion machinery in one shell, from a food that has been in your refrigerator your whole life. There is one detail that decides whether you actually get any of it, and it is the reason this item is specifically whole eggs. The iodine and the selenium are concentrated in the yolk, along with the fat-soluble vitamins. The white is mostly protein and water, which means that the egg white omelet, a dish that an entire generation was told was the healthier choice, hands back most of what makes an egg useful to this particular organ. 2 whole eggs are a better breakfast for your thyroid than 4 egg whites, and it is not close. Here is how to add this to your plate. 2 whole eggs, a few mornings a week, as one component of a balanced meal rather than the whole meal, alongside a vegetable, a whole grain, a piece of fruit. Boiled, poached, scrambled, it makes no difference to the minerals. And if you have been told to watch your cholesterol, that is a genuine conversation to have with your own doctor about your own numbers, not a rule I can set for you from here. We are halfway. Before we get to number 3, may I ask one small thing? If the last 10 minutes have explained something nobody had bothered to explain to you before, tap the like button. It is free, it takes 1 second, and it is genuinely what decides whether YouTube shows this video to another person in their 70s who has spent 2 years being told their tiredness is nothing. And if you would like one careful, evidence-based video like this every week, subscribe. That is the whole ask. Now, number 3, and this is where the second mineral finally takes over the story. Number 3, turkey or chicken. Here is the mechanism, and it is the one that changed how I think about this gland. Your thyroid mostly produces T4, the storage form, the one with 4 iodine atoms. But T4 is not what your cells actually use. Somewhere out in the body, a T4 molecule has 1 iodine atom removed to become T3, the active hormone that walks into a cell and sets its speed. The enzymes that perform that conversion are selenoproteins. The Office of Dietary Supplements at the National Institutes of Health states that selenoproteins play critical roles in the conversion of the pro-hormone T4 to the active T3. Iodine builds the hormone, selenium switches it on. That same office puts the adult requirement at 55 micrograms of selenium a day and lists 3 ounces of roasted turkey at about 26 micrograms and 3 ounces of roasted light meat chicken at about 22 micrograms. Call it half a day's selenium in 1 ordinary portion of poultry, plus the protein that mechanism number 3 depends on. Now let me tell you why this item is poultry and not the famous alternative you have heard about. The internet's favorite selenium trick is the Brazil nut. The same fact sheet lists 1 ounce of Brazil nuts at 544 micrograms of selenium, with individual nuts ranging from 68 to 91 micrograms each, and it warns directly that eating them regularly could result in selenium toxicity. The adult upper limit is 400 micrograms a day. Selenosis is a real condition. Hair loss, brittle nails, a garlic odor on the breath. A handful of nuts whose content swings by a factor of 10 is not a sensible daily plan for anybody. Here is how to add this to your plate. A palm-sized portion of turkey or chicken, 3 or 4 ounces, a couple of times a week. Roasted or poached rather than breaded and fried. Boring, predictable, and impossible to overdose on. Number 2, shrimp or oysters if you love them. Let me be honest about why this one is on the list, because you may have expected the opposite. Shellfish has a reputation as an iodine food, and shrimp is a fairly modest source of it. The Office of Dietary Supplements at the National Institutes of Health puts 3 ounces of cooked shrimp at about 13 micrograms of iodine. That is real, but it is not the headline. The headline is selenium. That same 3-ounce portion of shrimp carries about 42 micrograms of selenium, roughly 3/4 of an adult's entire daily requirement, in a small portion of a food most people think of as a treat. Against the 26 micrograms in turkey, shrimp is the densest practical source on this list that does not come with a toxicity warning attached. Add the complete protein it brings, and one modest serving is quietly working mechanisms 2 and 3 at the same time. The caution here is not the shellfish, it is what usually gets done to it. Pre-cooked cocktail shrimp is very often brined, and breaded shrimp arrives with a sodium load that has nothing to do with your thyroid and everything to do with your blood pressure. Buy it raw or plain frozen and cook it yourself. 3 minutes in a hot pan is genuinely all it takes. Here is how to add this to your plate. A 3-ounce portion once a week, sautéed in olive oil with garlic, or tossed cold into a salad. And if you have a shellfish allergy, please do not go anywhere near it. Take the same selenium from the poultry at number 3 or the fish at number 1, which do the identical job through the identical mechanism. Number 1, cod, salmon, or sardines. Here's the payoff I promised you at the beginning, and it is the least glamorous food in this entire video. According to the Office of Dietary Supplements at the National Institutes of Health, a 3-ounce portion of baked cod supplies about 146 micrograms of iodine. The adult daily requirement is 150. One modest fillet of the plainest white fish in the case delivers nearly the entire day. Nothing else on this list is close, and it is not merely an iodine food, which is exactly why it wins. The office's selenium data puts 3 ounces of cooked Pacific cod at about 24 micrograms of selenium and 3 ounces of canned sardines at about 45 micrograms. Raw material and conversion in one fillet from the fish your grandmother served on a Friday and almost nobody buys anymore. Now, one honest correction, because it is the single most useful thing in this section. Not all fish behave the same way here. That same fact sheet lists 3 ounces of canned tuna in water at about 7 micrograms of iodine, roughly 1/20th of what the cod delivers. If your seafood habit is a tuna sandwich, you have been getting excellent protein and very little of the mineral we have been discussing. White fish is a different food for this purpose, and sardines are a different food again. Here is how to add this to your plate. 2 portions of fish a week, and let at least one of them be cod, haddock, or another mild white fish rather than tuna. Frozen fillets are fine. Tinned sardines, bones and all, are one of the least expensive nutritional bargains in the store. Bake it, poach it, or pan-fry it in olive oil, and do not chase this with kelp or seaweed instead, for a reason I will come back to before we finish. Now let's put the 6 together, because these are not 6 separate ideas. They are one system with 4 moving parts, and the reason they work is that they overlap. Start with raw material. Iodine is the atom your hormone is physically built from, and 3 of your 6 foods carry serious amounts of it. The iodized salt at number 6, the dairy at number 5, and the cod at number 1, which on its own approaches a full day's 150 micrograms. The eggs at number 4 add another 31. Nobody needs all of them at once. What you need is for the pipeline never to run dry for months at a time. Second, conversion. Selenium is what turns the storage hormone into the active one, and notice that this mechanism is carried by a completely different set of foods. The turkey and chicken at number 3, the shrimp at number 2, the sardines at number 1, and the yolks at number 4. This is the reason the two halves of the list have to sit on the same table. All the iodine in the world does not help you if the enzymes that flip T4 into T3 are running short of the mineral they are built from. See, and remember, this is the one organ in the body that holds selenium in higher concentration than any other. Third, the protein backbone. Look at what the selenium foods have in common: eggs, poultry, shellfish, fish, dairy. Every one of them is a protein food. The scaffold your gland assembles its hormone on is built from amino acids, so the same forkful is delivering the mineral and the structure at the same time. Fourth, adequacy rather than excess, and this is the mechanism that separates a sensible plate from a dangerous one. Notice what is not on this list: no kelp, no iodine drops, no 500 microgram supplement. Every single item here delivers its nutrient in the tens or low hundreds of micrograms, which is precisely the range this gland is built to work in. Now watch how they combine on a real plate. Eggs scrambled with a glass of milk gives you both minerals before 9 in the morning. Baked cod with a quarter teaspoon of iodized salt is nearly a whole day of iodine and a third of your selenium in one dinner. Shrimp on a salad, roast turkey on a Sunday, plain yogurt on a Tuesday. 6 foods, 4 mechanisms, 1 small gland that has to be supplied steadily for decades, not for a fortnight. Food is one lever. Let me give you the rest of the honest picture, because this organ responds to more than groceries. Sleep matters, and so does not ignoring a change that has lasted for months. The American Thyroid Association points out that thyroid disease in older adults often presents subtly, and that the symptoms are nonspecific enough to be mistaken for ordinary aging by both the patient and everyone around them. Tiredness, constipation, weight change, feeling cold, a memory that has gone slightly soft, every one of those can have a dozen other explanations, and none of them proves a thing on its own, which is exactly why the answer is not a food. It is a test. So here are the 2 simple things to ask about at your next appointment. Not to diagnose yourself with, to ask about. The first is a TSH blood test. It is an ordinary blood draw, usually run alongside a free T4, and it is the standard first look at whether that gland is keeping up. If you are over 60, if the tiredness has lasted more than a few months, or if thyroid trouble runs in your family, it is an entirely reasonable thing to raise. The second takes about 15 seconds and costs nothing. Ask for a physical examination of the neck. A clinician places their fingers over the front of your throat and asks you to swallow, feeling for enlargement, asymmetry, or a nodule. It is a routine part of a physical, and it is very often skipped simply because nobody asked for it. And bring your medication list to that appointment, all of it, including anything you buy off a shelf. Some ordinary supplements interact with thyroid medication in ways that are easy to manage once someone knows about them, and invisible when nobody does. Ask about both, then let the food do its slow work underneath. One more thought before I let you go. Somewhere in your life there is a person who has quietly gotten smaller. Maybe it is your wife who has started keeping a cardigan on in July and apologizing for it. Maybe it is a brother who has stopped calling in the afternoons because the afternoons are when he has nothing left. They have already decided it is just age. They are not going to look this up, and they are certainly not going to ask a clinician for a blood test on their own. Share this with them, not as a warning, as a plate of food and 2 questions for their next appointment. A gland that has been running slow for years can be identified in a single morning's blood draw, and that is a genuinely hopeful thing. It is never too late to ask the question. And come back next week, because I do this every week. And once more, because with this organ it matters. Symptoms do not diagnose a thyroid condition, and food does not treat one. If a thyroid problem is diagnosed, levothyroxine is the standard treatment, and no food here replaces it. I am not a doctor, and nothing here is medical advice. Here is where the usual advice flips. Too little iodine impairs hormone production, but the National Institute of Diabetes and Digestive and Kidney Diseases warns that large amounts of iodine from kelp, dulse, or other seaweed may cause or worsen an underactive thyroid, and that iodine supplements can do the same. Food first, ordinary amounts clinician guided. That code is on your screen now. Scan it with your phone camera, and the 90-year blueprint is yours, free, my gift for spending this time with me. If this was useful, subscribe, because there is a new evidence-based video like this every week, and I would like you to have the next one. And leave me a comment below. Which of the 6 will you try first? The iodized salt, the yogurt, the whole eggs, the turkey, the shrimp, or the cod? I read them, and I choose future topics from them. As always, this channel uses an AI-generated presenter and an AI-generated voice. The host never claims to be a doctor or any kind of licensed medical professional, and everything here is education, not medical advice. Feed that small gland in your neck. I will see you next time.